Okay, welcome to today's video about row reducing. Now, you can probably find tons of videos online on how to enter in a matrix into a calculator and have it row reduce it to give you your final answer. But I haven't really found a good video on how to row reduce step by step on the calculator so that you can check your work as you're doing it by hand. Because if you are taking a class, you've probably found that they make you uh, row reduce by hand, two by three like this one, or a 3 by 4 matrix, and it's huge and it takes a while. And if you make one little mistake, um, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use the calculator along with doing it by hand, so you can kind of check your answers. So that way you don't just row reduce on the calculator and then just hope to God by the time you're done it matches what the calculator says. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to row reduce this matrix. Um, so before we start that, let me show you the functions that are on the graphing calculator that we're going to be using. Now there's four of them. Now there's three operations, but there's four um, functions on the calculator that we're going to use. And the first one is the row swap, and it's actually pretty simple. It's row swap, and then in parentheses, you'll list the matrix you're working with, which for us will be matrix A, and then the two rows you want to swap. So like 1 and 2. So what this does is it swaps rows 1 and 2. So pretty simple. Okay, that's not the hard one. Okay, the second one, it looks like this. It has a little multiplication sign, and then row, and then parentheses. Now in the parentheses, what you're going to do is the first parameter is what are you multiplying the row by? So let's say like 5. And then it's going to ask what matrix, matrix A, and then what row. So like say 1. So what this says is multiply row 1 by 5. Okay, so that's our second function. Um, so where's my, okay, so multiply, so row 1, so this is the row right here. That's the matrix, and that's what you want to multiply the row by. Okay, third one is going to look like, as a little plus sign, and then the row, and then in parentheses, what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, what matrix, matrix A, and what two rows are you going to add? So what this is doing is it's just saying add the two rows together. So let's say row 1 and row 2. So what this says is, where's my cursor? Okay. It says add rows 1 and 2 and store it into row 2. So what you're going to do is add the two rows together and then store it into row 2. All right, that one's probably not too bad. Now here's the one that's this one's the trickiest, and it's also the trickiest operation when you're doing it by hand as well. Okay, so it's going to have, let me get it out real fast because I don't know if it's the plus sign first or the multiplication sign. So, all right, multiplication sign. So we got multiplication sign, row, add, and in parentheses. Okay, so I actually had number 3 wrong. If you can see, it actually says row plus. So up here, let me just erase that. It's row plus. Okay. All right, now back to 4. It's going to be multiplication, row, and plus. So the first number is what are you, here, let me do this. like row 2 minus 3 times row 1, store that into row 2. So what you're going to do is you're going to multiply the first row by negative 3, you're going to add that to row 2, and store that into row 2. And it's going to be written like this. So what are you multiplying? What matrix? And the first one here is what are you multiplying? Which row are you multiplying the negative 3 to? So that's row 1. And then what are you storing this into, which is row 2? So these are the 4 functions we're going to use to row reduce that matrix. What I'm going to do is, since we're about 6 minutes and it took me that long to just introduce the functions, I'm going to make a part 2 where we actually row reduce that function or that matrix that I had listed at the top of this. So I'll be right back.